This is Kevin at Tweak Geeks. In this session we're going to be discussing some of the tools that you should be using before you upgrade to Windows 7. Now times are tough. It would be nice if we could save a little money, save a little time by upgrading our computers instead of having to go out and buy brand new ones. Microsoft has provided the Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor. That's a basic tool that you start with. This is a very effective tool, but it doesn't give you the full picture. We're going to start it up right now. There's a lot of scenarios out there where two similar computers were upgraded, and one might be successful and the other one might not be successful. At that point, we kind of have to sit back and take a look at everything and realize that Windows 7 runs about 600 threads. Windows Vista only ran about 400. So Windows 7 has a much larger footprint. On the plus side, Windows 7 has gotten rid of most of the speed bumps that bothered everybody in Vista. In addition, it runs a much more efficient kernel, which is the engine that runs the computer. So you can see that upgrading could be kind of a toss-up. And that's why we're having this session in the first place. It's all about the free tools that you can use before you upgrade. You know, I don't think that anyone has really put any of this information out there yet. But it's really important in order to know what to expect before you take the plunge and make the upgrade. So we're going to be talking about Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor, which I just ran, the Windows 7 Compatibility Center, Windows 7 Easy Transfer, and then a couple non-Microsoft tools: Bellarc Advisor, Hardware Monitor, CPU-Z, and Software Information for Windows. Now what we're going to check with all this is, number one, the drivers, the free space on the computer, the software that you're running now, the licenses, what they are, how to get them, where to find the printouts, all that stuff. Temperature, and temperature may be one of the things that is forgotten about most of the time, but we still have to check it, because if you have a computer that's running warm or hot now, it probably will not survive the upgrade. After that, we need to look at the processor, the memory on the computer, and the video. So these are the things that we want to check out before we make the upgrade. Now, getting back to the Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor, again, this doesn't give you the full picture. Very often you may get a situation where almost any computer that fits the minimum requirements is going to be upgradable to some version of Windows 7. However, that may not be the version of Windows 7 that you actually want to run. So we're going to go into this in a lot more detail. Before we do, we have to get started with a few of the preliminaries. And the preliminaries are things that you basically can check very easily without downloading any tools. They're basically standard features of Windows already. So you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to download anything that's already there. These preliminaries are just to give you a basic idea how your computer's running now. Now we're looking at Windows Task Manager. You start Task Manager simply by hitting the Control Alt and Delete keys, and it pops right up. On Task Manager, you're going to see two graphs at the top if you're looking at a dual processor computer. If you have a single processor computer, this will be one graph. Now you also have to go to View and Show Kernel Times in order to see the red line here, which is showing us how well the kernel is running, which is the engine that runs Windows. You know, we see a red line and a green line. The red line is a kernel and the green line is your memory usage. Now you may see the green line go all the way to the top, and it can stay there for a while. That's okay. We're mainly concerned about the red line. If the red line goes to the top and stays there, doesn't come back down, well, that means the processor is underpowered and it's not really efficient enough to run the operating system that you're currently running. So we take a quick look at this, and this tells us that our CPU is using memory very efficiently on this computer, and the processor is working very well. Now the bottom line is your page file usage. The thing that affects this bar or this graph is the memory that you have installed on your computer. When you see change in the line here, the faster the memory, generally the smoother the lines are. If you have slow memory, this line is usually jumping all over the place. The other thing that affects this graph is the amount of memory that you have. This particular computer has 2 gigabytes of RAM, so this line is way down towards the bottom. If this computer only had about 500 megabytes of RAM, this line would be way up towards the top. So generally the lower the lines are on all these graphs, generally the better it is. And this is a real quick way just to take a instant look and see how your computer is running now. Now incidentally, going back to the graphs, the more applications that you're running, generally the higher the lines go. So if you're running 5 or 6 or 7 applications and these lines go way up, that's not a big issue. Close some of your applications and see what it's like when you're running 2 or 3 applications. It'll give you a good idea how your computer is running now. Then the next tool, if we close this, is My Computer. You right click on My Computer and you go to Properties, and at that point you're going to see what type of, you'll see the basic operating system on your computer, and you'll see the memory that's installed. Notice this is Windows XP Professional 64-bit edition. Now this is a pretty powerful computer. This has a AMD Athlon dual core processor, 4400 processor with 2 gigs of RAM. And that's pretty powerful. We shouldn't have any trouble running anything with that. We probably want to run Windows Server with it or just about anything. So we're not going to have trouble with the processor or the RAM on this computer. The other thing that you look at is the hardware. And if you click on the Hardware tab and you go to Device Manager, you're going to see a bunch of applications, and what we're looking for is an exclamation mark or a red X. You shouldn't see an exclamation mark or a red X because that's going to indicate that you're having a problem on the current system with whatever it's showing at. For example, there's a lot of older motherboards out there. A lot of them have onboard fax modems. Now I don't think that any of the motherboards that were built when XP64 came out, I don't think any of the motherboards had fax modems on them. But there's still a lot of fax modems out there on the motherboards, and you'll probably see an exclamation mark here or a red X. If you're running 64-bit edition of Windows, you'd probably see red X because I don't think there's any drivers for it. The other thing that you see is a lot of the old onboard sound cards, and this is the onboard sound where basically they have driver issues and it's older hardware, so the manufacturers don't want to produce newer drivers. So it's interesting when you take a look at this. You shouldn't see any exclamation marks and you shouldn't see any red X's. If you do, then we're probably going to have some problems. Now the last of the preliminaries that we want to look at is the hard drive space. We can tell very simply by double clicking on My Computer. And you see this system is set up pretty well. We have about 800 gigabytes of free space here, so we're not going to have any problems upgrading this computer. Now I believe the G drive here is what we selected for this installation, and you'll notice we have 166 gigabytes of free space. Now Microsoft says you only need about 50. Well, we've got to talk about that.